Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We've just come off the back of a wonderful, resounding win. I did say to Stuart behind the scenes that if this was the second time I host without a win, then I will never do it again. So that's fortunate. Yeah, I'm joined by Stu and Connor, both wonderful guys on here. We're waiting for Abdul, obviously fashionably late, but I hope everyone is well. Well, my first question is, Stu, how do you think we've done?
Do you know, I tweeted out, I thought it was a professional performance. I thought we managed the game as good as I've seen us manage the game for the last 6 weeks. I thought individually we looked up for it. Individually performances I thought were high grade. And a special shout out to Dan James, who I thought was excellent tonight. I must admit, when I saw Rashford and McTominay miss early chances, I did think to myself, if Sociedad sneak one, it's going to be a long night. And to be fair, Rashford should have popped both of his chances away, and same with McTominay. But Bruno to the rescue again. I just hope he can stay injury-free between now and the end of the season, because he is a huge catalyst for our team performance. But once we did go one up, that opened the door, because Sociedad had to come out and attack us. And it almost played into our hands. One thing I thought we did particularly well tonight was keep their front four, so to speak. Forget Isaac, who plays up at the very top of their front four. Alathabal, Marino, Silva, pretty quiet for most of the game. When we starved Isaac. He didn't get any crosses into the box. So I thought, all in all, it was a comfortable night. I'll give Ollie his due. He's got it spot on tonight. The players looked up for it. We just need to take that into Sunday's game now against Newcastle. So all in all, well happy.
Yeah, good. I'm pleased you're happy, Stu. That makes me happy. But obviously the result obviously makes me happy too. Yeah, I thought we were very good tonight. You're absolutely right, actually. I think whatever Ollie did behind the scenes obviously geared up the players very, very well. And they did individually all look very hungry. There were a couple of shaky starts at the beginning. Connor, I'll come to you for the moment just to tell me your thoughts, and we'll go into the defensive partnership between Harry and Bailly straight after. What did you feel, buddy?
Yeah, as Stu just said, it was professional, and it was needed as well after the weekend's performance where we didn't really create anything at all. That's one of the first games I've watched in a long time where we've created 7 or 8 clear-cut opportunities. We create half chances in games, and tonight we created clear-cut, and you'd expect, right, like Stu just mentioned, Rashford and McTominay, that tie could have been 6-7, 7-0 tonight. 4-0 probably reflects it in terms of recent form, for in particular Rashford. He hasn't been on the best of form, so the fact that he bagged a goal as well is good for him. Dan James, I thought, was brilliant. I know a lot of people don't really think he's up to the standard, but he came and did a job today, and I thought he was really good. A solid performance I think has gone under the radar is Harry Maguire. Thought Eric Bailly did good next to him, but Harry Maguire got in some crucial blocks, because let's not forget they were dangerous tonight. And if it wasn't for some crucial blocks and some decent saves from Henderson, it could have been a different game. And I think the first goal was very important because it allowed the space in behind them for Rashford and James to run in behind. Whereas when I was watching the start of the game, it reminded me a lot of the Sevilla game. We had a lot of early chances and we didn't seem to take many of them. And you could see them starting to grow into the game. So I did have some worry about the Sevilla game last season. But no, all in all, we needed that win. And it was important to get a good aggregate score going into the next game against Real Sociedad, because of the Chelsea game that's straight after it. So, yeah, we needed those 4 goals tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you say it was good to get a good aggregate score, but I think we went above and beyond. Obviously, 4-0 against potentially one of the biggest threats in the competition. I think I was rightly told last night on Wall of Reds that, this is a game where this is probably going to be our most difficult competition for a little while. Obviously, it depends who we get in the next round. I mean, anything can happen, but they are one of the toughest opponents. I mean, you think only a few weeks ago they were top of the league, and then they've sort of lost a bit of form and are now sitting in 5th. So they're no team to scoff at. But yeah, I agree with all your points there, lads. I think it was a very professional performance, and I'm really pleased to see certain players that played tonight. I mean, Daniel James in particular. I'll move on to Daniel James in a moment, but from a defensive point of view, I mean, there were a couple of shaking moments at the very beginning. And I think that might have just been nerves, especially from Bailly's perspective. I think Harry was pretty solid all night, really, and then Bailly was himself. What did you make of that partnership tonight, Stu? And would you change it for the next game, or do you want to see that more solidarity going forward?
So, I'd like to see them line up against Newcastle. Bailly, unfortunately, was probably a victim of inactivity for the past few weeks. And that, can affect a player, hence his dodgy start. But he grew into the game really, really well. Connor's absolutely right in regards as Maguire has gone under the radar tonight because he was pretty solid. But it helps when Fred was on his mettle, because when Fred's on his mettle, he does provide that blanket in front of your two centre halves. And he hasn't been like that for the past few weeks. And I must admit, I groaned when Fred's made the starting lineup today. But of course, when you consider where we are, we didn't really have any other options. Moving forward for Sunday, if that Carroll plays, I think we do need Bailly and Maguire for definite. I'd even go so far as to say I'd keep Henderson between the posts because he commanded his box a lot better than what De Gea does. Wan-Bissaka, I thought he was his usual self, really. Made a couple of errors, a couple of mistimed tackles, but I thought he had Januzaj in his pocket. Not that Januzaj is really going to cause him that much issue, many problems anyway. I think he's always flattered to deceive, even at Old Trafford. And I didn't see anything different from his time at Old Trafford to where he is today. But credit to him, he's carved himself out a career. I have to say, I thought Telles was okay. Brilliant going forwards. Got a bit of an issue with his crossing at the minute. Perhaps that's because Cavani is injured and he wasn't in there to, as a focal point for him. But come Sunday, I think Ollie needs to fall on his sword, wrestle Lindelof. Lindelof's had a back injury all season. Everybody knows this. And it's a real good time to take him out the equation and put Brian Maguire in. So I spot on, Connor, by the way, Maguire. I did miss that, but you're right. I thought he was excellent tonight. And so was Bailly. So, yeah. But I'd like to see that central three, Henderson, Bailly, Maguire, start Sunday evening.
Yeah, we've spoken about this a lot, haven't we, recently? I mean, for several months, actually. David De Gea has got us out of some very sticky situations in the past. And, he's won Player of the Year on numerous occasions. And that says a lot about the team, in my opinion. But I thought Henderson tonight was very, very commanding, looked assured, very vocal. And that's something that we don't really see from David De Gea so much. And that's what I believe should be in a good, great, world-class keeper. I also agree with you on Harry and Bailly. I think together they are good. You need that partnership, and we've spoken about this before. Lindelof and Harry Maguire are very similar, and in order to accommodate and bring the best out of them, you need someone to be very quick. And Bailly is that man. If he was able to play every week, then I think that would be a real solid partnership. And then you'd have a replacement for Harry, and you just need to have someone else as a replacement for Bailly, which Twanzebe could be. We're just being joined by Abdul. Thanks for coming, mate. Fashionably late as always. I just wanted to quickly mention, obviously, if we can get to 25 likes, I'm not sure what we're on now. Someone can let me know. It'd be great. I will ask a question for a chance to be put into the prize draw, which will be happening in a few weeks once we get to 2,500 subscribers on YouTube. So if we can get to 25 likes, you'll be in for a chance to win some Football Town apparel. So get some likes on the video, guys. Abdul, how did you feel that went tonight? I should imagine you're pretty happy, and you can dissect it and give me a lot of analysis here.
Yeah, I've been actually taking a lot of notes because usually I don't like to give my thoughts right after the game, because I like to watch the game 2 or 3 times before I can actually say what actually happened. So I took notes for this. So there's a lot of positives, to be honest, from this game. And if we were talking defensively, Henderson showed a lot of qualities today, and with his shouting, with the commanding, with telling Bailly and Harry when he's coming out to claim a ball, when he wants them to leave the ball for him. So that was very positive, and it showed what kind of difference it makes when you have at least a communicative goalkeeper, not someone who's very passive like De Gea. And like, I'm not trying to put down De Gea. I'm just saying that that's the difference between them. De Gea is just not that type of person, I guess. And this, the other thing is, of course, the covering of Bailly for Maguire, but it's not so much the sense of speed. It's not so much the sense of who to cover who and when, because people want to put it down to speed only. It's recognizing my center back partner just pushed up. I need to cover this area for him and communicate with him. That's the kind of differences that happened today. Same thing with Fred and Scott, and even when Matic came on, the double pivot have to communicate with each other. Fred today was very communicative. He was talking a lot. So I remember a couple of instances where he was giving the ball or he was receiving the ball, and he would shout to Scott McTominay or Matic, like, a man on. So someone is coming from behind you. So these are very, very good signs. And like I said, the biggest issue we have, I've always said it before, was execution up top and communication at the back. If these two things get fixed, we have a real team on our hands.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, we saw that we were far more clinical today. There's no doubt about it. But we did see moments of Rashford and his decision making again. I mean, I know he got a goal, but he probably should have had 3. And if he'd made, on that one particular chance in the first half, if he'd have played at either side of the keeper, that would have been a goal. And I know that seems really minuscule when you talk about decision making, but he seems to be spoken about before. He doesn't seem to place it when he should, and he tries to smash it when do you know what I mean? He does the opposite of those two things. So, and we saw that again today. Now, listen, this is not taking anything away from Rashford. He got his goal. He was actually very good tonight. But I think that, we won 4-0, and ultimately, if he'd have taken those chances better, we could have won 6 or 7. And this is where he really needs to hone in on these things. Do you know what I mean?
He suffers something we call the tunnel vision. So Rashford, his problem is he takes a decision very early. He doesn't consider all his options before making the decision. So let's say the decision is, I'm going to play a creative pass. So he stands, scans, sees all his options, plays a good pass, to be fair to him. Or let's say he decides, I'm going to take on a couple of people here. All right. And then that's his decision. And he darts his run and it takes on, to be fair to him, he takes on the first, maybe the second. But then he runs into a crowded area. And because he decided earlier that he's just taking on people, he does not stop for a second to think of all the options that he has around him. Because he attracts a lot of people and then leaves a lot of other teammates in space. If he scans that once, while the picture is evolving, he'll be a really dangerous player. But he needs to fix that.
It's not a problem so much as well in these games where you create a lot of chances. The problem's going to come in the tight games when we've got Chelsea and City coming up. Yeah. That's when he needs to start taking these chances. And like you just mentioned there about his decision making, that's where it needs to improve. It's those tight games in these. Not going to call them easier ties, but when we're going to create more chances, like I said earlier, we created 7 or 8 clear-cut opportunities. It's not so much of a problem. It's these tighter matches he's really got to sharpen up on. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. I mean, it's such a fine line, isn't it? If he can refine these things, which shouldn't be too difficult. He's got a fantastic manager learn from, and Cavani as well. If he can make improvements on those and just refine them ever so slightly, he will become a world-class player. I have absolutely no doubt on that. Stu, I'm going to come over to you, buddy. Bruno Fernandes. I had a conversation with my Liverpool mate tonight. We always wind each other up, and he said, if it wasn't for Bruno Fernandes to get you out of these tight situations, what kind of team would you be? And I don't think he's too wrong there, but I feel that we played a lot better tonight and didn't necessarily rely upon him so much. But his first goal was his second goal was wonderful as well. His first goal was brilliant. What did you make of his performance tonight? Obviously, we've spoken about him being a very vital player for us. But what was your take on his performance in particular?
Well, it's hard to kind of disagree. If anybody does say we would have issues without Bruno, because we would. But then again, any team that Bruno played for would have issues if he wasn't on the field. What he gives us is the dynamism that nobody else can. I mean, at parts of the game tonight, he was playing up top. So he was playing in advance of Greenwood, in advance of Rashford, and in advance of James. And which is great for us because he's a nightmare to pick up. And any centre, I've said it on here before, any centre half who's got a little busy little player around him who's not static and is running around, it's a nightmare to pick up, and it's not fun. But he just gives us, what he does give us is, as well as the energy, he gives us that leadership. I think when people have somebody like Bruno on the pitch, they want to please Bruno as well as the manager, and that's a good thing to have. I've played in many a team where we've had 6, 7, 8, or 9 types of character of Bruno Fernandes, all different players, but types of character that Bruno has. And you just become a collective winner. And when you're a collective winner, you become difficult to beat. What's kind of happened in the past 4 or 5 games, Bruno's, A, he's not been playing particularly well, and B, I think he's not overused because any player wants to play all the time, but he's been tiring in games. And when you can't find Bruno and you can't utilise his qualities, he gets frustrated and he cuts a sullen figure. And again, the team kind of understands that. And when he does cut this sullen figure, it's difficult to get him out of it unless he does a moment of brilliance. So he's quite temperamental, which is what I like. But Cantona was the same anyway. But Cantona had this real aura about him. I think as the season progresses, you'll see that Bruno will have a Cantona aura about him. And he's becoming almost, I don't want to say, he's pivotal to what we do, because we all know he's pivotal, but you should never have one pivot or pivotal player in the team. You need more. I take Abdul's point really about Rashford, his decision-making. Look, I'm a centre-half, as we all know. We've spoken about this, and a defensive midfielder. But even I know that when the ball came across to Rashford in his for the second effort, if he could have crossed it, he would have scored. If he could have crossed the ball, it would have bent away and into the bottom right-hand corner as we look at it, instead of trying to go across the goal. So, look, Bruno is brilliant. I love Bruno. But as a footballer, you can't rely on a single entity in any team. I've probably gone over the top a bit there, but...
No, honestly, absolutely fine, mate. Trying to type out a few things at the same time, so thank you. Scoreline is flattering, says Skeptic here. I mean, that is sceptical. Excuse the pun. I feel that we were very, very good tonight. And I don't believe that was flattering at all. And as I said, I think if we'd have taken our chances, we could have had 2 or 3 more at least, and that's being fair. So no, I thought we were excellent. Moving on to Scott and Fred tonight. Obviously, every time I see them on the team sheet, it's very difficult. We're creatures of habit, and it's very difficult for me to think, oh, okay, we might be setting up pragmatically again, and we could play defensive. But it was everything but that tonight. And is that, Connor? Do you think that's because? Why do you think that is? I mean, Fred sort of sat in the single pivot tonight, and Scott was able to venture forward a lot more, and I think he's done that a lot more over the last few games. Would you say that that's part of the reason, or anything else at all for that?
I think McTominay's definitely been told to get further forward, and I think he's more effective when he gets further forward. I don't like him as this deep lying midfielder alongside Fred. I don't really like it when any of our players play in a two, what you'd call defensive midfield role, whether it's Pogba that slots in alongside Fred or Matic, whoever fills in there. I don't particularly like it. So with McTominay becoming more of a box-to-box, I think it's helping us in attack. Like similar what Stu just said there about Bruno not being the only focal point, I guess, in the team. The reason why Man City have been so good in recent years, in my eyes, and why Barcelona under Pep Guardiola is because you had multiple focal points, especially in midfield. You try pick up, say, for example, Man City, you have De Bruyne, you have David Silva, whoever it was at the time. So if you've got, say, Bruno playing in a three, and McTominay and Fred behind. McTominay's been good in recent times, and it's definitely helped having more of a box-to-box player. But if you have a player with more quality there as well, the opposition have then got two players to watch out for rather than just the one. So it helps us tactically, from what I see, having McTominay further forward rather than having two deep-line midfielders. And they've just been solid this season. Fred had a good game as well. I don't think he's becoming the defensive midfielder we need or want. But he certainly can do a job in these kind of games.
My bad. Wrong button. I got a light in my eye and I could not see for shit. Sorry about that. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think from my perspective, I've always said that Scott is very much a squad player. And especially if it comes to playing as defensive midfielder, I feel like his positional awareness is not great. And he's not a defensive midfielder. But I think what we have seen in recent weeks and why he's become more valuable to the team is because he's been playing further forward and has been far more effective. And it's really great to see. So I hope that he continues that. And hopefully when we get our wonderful defensive midfielder, whoever that might be in the next year or two, if we do, then we can see, two players playing further forward and being as creative as McTominay has been in the last few weeks, especially. Abdul, what's your view on Daniel James tonight? I felt that he was brilliant, actually. I've spoken about him on many occasions being, not that necessarily that United quality. Maybe he needs a loan. But I think that from my perspective, when he first came in, he was playing every week. And I think that probably had a real effect on him. He wasn't expecting that. United weren't expecting that. And neither was Ollie. Now that he's had a bit of time out and has been able to sort of refine those things, his final third and those sort of things, he's been good. Every time I've seen him, I think he's surprised me. What's your take on that?
Well, like you said, when he first came in, I don't think Ollie expected to be playing him that much, but because we had so many injuries at the very beginning of the season, last season, his hand was forced. And you've seen it that last season, all the games that Dan James really shined in are the games that the opposition team is trying to play us, not trying to sit off us. So most of his assists were against the big teams because Manchester United were packed back and there was a lot of space for James to run onto. So he's a card you play in the right situations and in the right games. He's not he's not a starter in the sense of this is my starting 11 and James is one that I'm going to choose every single week. Because yes, some of his technical qualities is still a bit limited. But I think he's a very dangerous card to play because he does offer you something different that no one else has. He really terrorized Montreal on the right hand side this game, and he just couldn't keep up with him. He had to foul him every time when he's on his bike, So I've never hated on James or said that he was not like United quality in the sense, oh, he has to play every game. I knew his use you just have to know the benefit that comes out from the player before actually judging them on something they're not really expecting to do. They're not really expected to do. Like James is not a Martial, so you can't have the same expectations for both players, right? You have to understand what this player gives you. So far, I think Oli has been using him very very well in the right games. This was an open game, and I think Oli knew it. It was going to be an end-to-end sort of game, and he wanted someone to cover defensively and be dangerous on the counter, on the transition. And Daniel James was the perfect choice for that, because Daniel James is very aware defensively. He will come and cover your fullback, and Sociedad, if you've watched them play, they're very dangerous down their left hand side, which would be United's right. So I think that was a really good card that Oli played in the right time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think defensively, he's I don't know who that was. Defensively, he is much better than anyone else actually
Yeah,
on
than any of our wingers.
the right side. And I think when you play against a team like Real Sociedad that will attack you, that is the perfect opportunity for someone like him to try and get some defensive capability in there. And then on the counter attack, he's that perfect man. So I totally agree with what you said there. And yeah, it was really good for me to see that today. I think he was for everyone to see that. I thought he was brilliant. Just on George's comment here, we'll just quickly talk about this one. I'm going to move on to Greenwood in a moment, actually. So he says the problem with our team is we don't have an out-and-out striker. Sure, Cavani is great, but not the quickest. The likes of Greenwood and Rashford just aren't strikers, and that's the problem. Now, George, whilst I see what you're saying, and I absolutely agree with you, I would say that Greenwood is definitely our future number 9, which is what I'm going to move on to now. How do you think Stu, how do you think he did tonight? Obviously, he sort of took that role as the number 9. And I felt that he did okay. I thought his movement was very good. I think in the last few weeks, he's been very dangerous. And it's been really good to see. And I felt that he was a presence. He really sort of bullied the defence, really. And I know he didn't obviously get a goal, and he wasn't on the end of any crosses necessarily like Cavani would have been. But that's something that he can mature into. But what was your thoughts on his performance tonight?
Yeah, I thought he's slowly but surely coming back to somewhere near his best. What I would say is he will never be an out-and-out number 9, but what he will be is a mobile number 9. What I mean by an out-and-out number 9 is he won't be an 18-yard predator. He'll come and collect the ball. He'll move from left to right. So he'll be more of a mobile number 9. And I think, yeah, I do see him as our future up there. I think what most people see as a number 9 has always been the likes of Van Nistelrooy, the likes of Andy Cole, Alan Shearer type of player. That's what an old-fashioned number 9 is. And Greenwood's not that. Yeah, I think during his, I think it's for the under-18s, etc. I know he played and scored a hatful of goals from number 9, but modern-day football, I love the throwback of an old number 9, by the way. I think it's great. We don't score enough headers, nowhere near any enough diving headers. And I just don't think Greenwood does that as a proper out-and-out number 9 would be. But I do like his balance is spot on. He's 2-footed. If we can get his vision a little bit better, if we can get his decision making a little bit better, but that'll come in time anyway because he's still young, then he's going to be a precocious talent for sure. I agree. I just want to touch on Daniel James as well. Football's a squad game. You've got to have, a squad of 25 players. And Abdul's right. Solskjaer has used him economically, but at the right times. And today, in particular, Alathabal had 0 chances. He was completely out of the game, and Dan James is a part of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is about the squad, and it's something we certainly have got more of this season. And as I said, it's great to see him perform so well. He's so rapid. With regards to Greenwood, I thought he was good, as I mentioned. I take your points about the fact that he's got a lot more to learn, but let's not forget he's 19 years of age. Okay. No one really expects to play 50 odd games and 21 goals for United at that age. And he is brilliant. And I'm very excited. He's one of the best things to come out. And I'm very excited about him.
You're right. The thing about a number 9 is, though, you've got to have that anticipation. I interview a lot of MotoGP riders and World Superbike riders for what I do for a living. And I always talk to them about what it's like when you're on the bike and you're like inches away at 200 miles an hour from tire to tire. And they talk about anyone can ride a bike quickly, but there's that 10% that you've just got to have that not everybody has. And Greenwood will need that to play an out-and-out number 9. He will need that extra 10% of agility, anticipation. I think I spoke weeks ago now about Cavani's first goal in the Southampton match away. When the cross came in, it was a wayward shot, if you all recall. And the only one on the move was Cavani.
He was the only one on the move, yeah.
Yeah, and you cannot teach that. He anticipated, even before Bruno was shooting. 15 players were static. Cavani was the only one on the move. And that's my worry with Greenwood through the middle. That's, but as a player, I think he's great and he will evolve and develop. But can he develop into an out-and-out predator? I just don't know right now.
You could see it in the game today. I put a picture on Twitter earlier. There was about 3 or 4 chances. One of the examples I used, Bruno had the ball on kind of like a right wing position. Greenwood, Rashford, and James were all stood on the left wing position. Not a single player was making a run to the near post. Not a single player was making a run in the number 9 position. And it makes us very easy to defend against because we've had this problem for 5-6 years now where we just overload the left-hand side. So without that, like you just said, I do agree. I think Greenwood can get there. And he has got to learn that, but we don't, unless Cavani's not playing, we don't have that player that makes those front post runs. We don't have players that score tap-ins. I'd love to see us score some tap-ins, just getting it to the byline and cutting it back, and a striker being there at the front post. So it's definitely something. I think all of our forwards could use some training on that, and they've got Ollie, who was one of the best at tap-ins.
I'm glad you said that, Connor, because I agree that if Cavani's not that man to be able to accommodate that and teach him these things, I think we've got the best person at the club in order to do that. He was an absolute predator, probably severely underrated, and would get you goals left, right, and centre. And I'm hoping if it's not Cavani, fortunately we got Cavani in there, but if it's not him, then we've got a phenomenal legend that would be able to do that instead of him. So hopefully they can pick up on those things. Right, I'm just going to go on.
Did you guys watch the interview that Rio had with Mason when he signed his contract? I don't know if you guys did.
I haven't seen it yet.
Go watch it. And Rio asked him specifically if he's working with Cavani and Ollie on those runs, on those striker instincts. And he's saying that, in training, I stand and watch Cavani's movement every day to see those. And I see those specific runs that he makes 6-7 times in every single match. He talked about his heading, and he knows he's weak heading the ball, and he needs to improve in that. And Ollie referred to it last year, even a couple of times. And he's like, and I'm getting tips off of Ollie. He's telling me what I should be doing, how I should be striking the ball in certain situations. So he has the time. And I think people are rushing him because they're watching other kids who, fortunately for them, they matured earlier than Greenwood or than Rashford or some of our players. Like if you watch Mbappe 2 days ago, he's 20, but he's so mature for his age. His decision making is that of a 25, 26-year-old striker or winger. So I think it's unfair to put the same expectations on all the players to be like that. It's just the same thing with Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo when they break these unbelievable records of 50 goals a season or 40 goals a season, and you expect every striker to have that. It's just not going to happen. Most strikers don't do that. It's just those freak guys that are just on another level, and you have to appreciate that they're different.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think we have to just give him a bit more time. He probably hasn't. It's difficult, isn't it? Because when you've got someone like Greenwood in the academy, who's very, very highly thought of. Why didn't he get the opportunity as early as Mbappe? Is that because Monaco's academy probably isn't as good as ours, and that there was a bit more opportunity for him? Was it because at this point, when he'd had a bit of exposure and everyone thought he was that exciting, he was bought for a huge amount of money by PSG, and therefore he was always going to go into that team? Do you see what I mean? Whereas Greenwood, he's been filtered through very slowly. We have had other players that have taken up those positions, with Rashford, Martial, and we've tried to buy in one or two other players as well, Cavani and James. So, and obviously we've got people like Mata, would you say that that's probably why it's a little bit stifled and hasn't been given the same footing as someone like Mbappe?
It's different expectation. I'm sorry to jumping.
I
think
think
different expectation at Monaco than at Manchester United. I think that's why he's been filtered in. I think we all saw his talent at 18 level, under 18s. But like I said the other week, it's a completely different ball game when you go into the Premier League. So I personally, I think that's why. Just because of the expectation level and just because of the French league is not. I know it gets a bit of a knock, but it is certainly an easier league than the Premier League to come into.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think
what I was. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Connor.
No,
all I was going to say is that at that particular time, if you remember that Monaco side that Mbappe was in, they kind of a lot of them grew up together. It's a little bit like the Ajax from 2 years ago. The Van der Beek was a part of. They all grew up together, a bit like our class of '92. What we need, under 23 football just doesn't cut it. You can't jump from under 23 football to the Premier League. Obviously, I'm older than you guys, so we had a proper reserve league back then. And, they would blood a player properly, because what you tended to have is you'd have injured players. First team injured players have come back from various teams, and they'd kind of introduce you to what men's football was about. The under 23s doesn't, because we've all watched Diallo, Ahmad. He's been absolutely superb. He's been pulling up trees in there. Mejbri has, Shortire has, Hugel, but they're all the same size. They're not built. They're all the same size. They're kids.
If I add a point on that, and I think that, recently we have changed the framework of how the academy's been working and the path to the first team. Ever since Oli got in here, our academy haven't been looked at before Oli. So I think they changed the pathway to the first team. In what sense? In the sense that if you're 22, let's say, or 20, and you're still playing in the under 23 and you haven't got any chance in the first team, you'll start to get stagnated and you'll start to not develop anymore.
Correct.
But what we have right now is under 16s, under 18s, under 19s playing in the 23 level. So most of our players in the under 23 look younger than the ones that they're actually playing against, which is a very smart thing to do, because that means you're developing the ones who are under 16, under 18, so that they be ready for physicality, ready for people bigger and stronger than them. And then you move them to the first team. That's why the under 23s before was not getting us any talents. It's because it was getting really stagnated with people who have been playing and playing, and they weren't getting chances, and they're getting older, and there's just no chances for them to get into the first team. And they were shipped out.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's a fair point. You're right. I think, and this is something we've always been very proud of, is that our youngsters do tend to be ahead of their time, really. And I think we forget that, and a lot of, you take Man City. Phil Foden is very much an exception, but and obviously this is more recently, but because they spend so much money on their players, you're naturally going to see the youngsters filter into those squads a little bit later, and you take the same from Real Madrid and Barcelona. It doesn't happen as often there, but it happens more so for ours. We are very proud, and that's part of our DNA. And I think you're absolutely right. If you look at Ahmad, he's obviously 18. Joe Hugel, he's an absolute monster for his age, but he's only 18 and playing in the under 23s, and has been wonderful. So, it's all very positive, isn't it? And it's great to have that, and hopefully we can see more of that as time goes on. Right. I think, how many likes have we got now? 22. Have we? Anyone tell me?
Like it.
22
on mine.
Yeah, 22. That's what I saw too. Good. I think I'm always a little bit delayed, but I'm going to ask the question now. If we can get a few more likes on the video, I'd very much appreciate that. Please don't forget to subscribe. But my question tonight is going to go out to so I want everyone in the chat to put their answers in there. It will go to the first 5 people. So my question is about Adnan Januzaj. He made his first team start against Sunderland back in 2013, and he scored. How many goals did he score? Was it 1, 2, or 3? First 5 people, not all at once. Not all at once.
That's a really good question. That.
I wasn't trying to make it too easy this time round.
I know the answer. I just want to give the chat some time to answer before I jump in.
That was a good debate on the 23s, though, and it makes a good point. About the 23s. I suppose my era was just it was just played fields and
managers got a bit more time then as well, didn't they? So it was easier to give youngsters a chance because you didn't have the immediate pressure that you do nowadays.
And Foden was an interesting one as well, because if you look at Foden's path to the first team, it's taken him a good 18 months of being in and around the first team, and he's only now getting a run of games, isn't he? Or he's having a run of games. So obviously the David Silva departure, but that's worked quite well for Foden because swine that he is, he's one hell of a talent. He really is.
Oh, he is. I think he's probably, I don't know if he's classed as a teenager anymore, but I think he's probably the best in the league. I mean, Greenwood's a lot younger and he's got time on his side, so hopefully he can get up to that standard. I know they're very different players, but that's certainly a benchmark for him.
It's what we all want.
Say that again.
It's what we all want. We want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the correct answer was 2. I see that Jamie got it, Therese got it, Fred, and George. So you 4 will be going into it. I don't think there was anyone else. No. But I'll be putting you guys into the draw. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, it was a bit of a tough one, but well done. Closing thoughts then. Stu first. Who is your man of the match? And just any closing thoughts that you've got.
Do you know, I'm going to go for Danny James tonight. I just thought, the kids, as Abdul said, he's been in and out the side, and he's done a job tonight. He's got his goal. He's could have scored twice, but him and Wan-Bissaka have kept their most dangerous player under wraps all night. I think we heard Lathabel's name 3 times, 4 times. Bought him off, So I'm going to go with Dan James. I thought the whole team as a whole played really, really well as a collective. Maguire and Bailly, good shouts, but I'm going to go with Dan James. I just thought for me, he was the one.
I can't disagree with you, to be honest. Yeah, Connor, your thoughts and your man of the match, please, mate.
Okay, I'll start with man of the match. It's very. I don't think any player had a bad game. So there's a few honourable mentions. Fred. It's very easy to give it to Bruno, but I think Bruno set the standard so high. This was just a good game for him, which is crazy to be saying. For me, it's between Dan James and Maguire. I'm going to give it to Maguire because I think, like I said at the top of the show, I think his performance went under the radar a bit. And he, in the first half in particular, kept us in the game with some crucial blocks. And I think you could... It's easier now with no crowd and you can hear the communication with the back line. And I think him and Henderson and Bailly, like we've already spoke about, work well as a 3. It seems to relax him a bit more, and you could tell tonight. So I'm going to give it to Harry Maguire. In terms of the game, it was just important we got a good aggregate win. I think that was the main thing tonight.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm surprised about Harry, and that's no criticism towards you or Harry. I thought Harry was very good tonight, but I think that, something that we've spoken about a lot recently was about the attacking prowess, and I think that was really highlighted tonight. But yeah, I mean, any one of those 11 could have gone it, and I thought Harry Maguire was very good tonight. Thank you, mate. Abdul, final thoughts, buddy, and your man of the match, please.
Final thoughts, I would say we can see just from the addition of Henderson, from having a talkative goalkeeper and wingers who track back, how it covered a lot of dangerous attacks on the Manchester United defense. So if you add to that a CDM, and if you add to that a fit Bailly, then it will be a full-on locked defense. So I just wanted to highlight that it's not an issue of, oh, it's just Lindelof that's the problem of Maguire, and Maguire is the problem of Lindelof. Like Gary Neville said, it's a combination of a lot of things. And man of the match, I would go like Stu. I would give it to Daniel James, because he doesn't often play, and when he plays this season at least, he has given a performance. So I'll give it to him.
Yeah, I'm pleased you said that, Daniel James. Yeah, for me, I thought it was a very, as everyone said tonight, a very professional performance. I think they were brilliant, and it's certainly some confidence to take into the next game. I know our record after playing in Europe isn't always the best, and I hope that they can to really carry that into the next one, especially for Ollie and that duck. Really, I mean, it's certainly something they need to look for. But for me, it could have been anyone really. But Daniel James, you know, as I said earlier, I've given him a lot of stick, and not horrible stick, not, you know, just criticism at times about his final third decisions, a bit like Rashford, and I thought he was brilliant tonight, and that was great to see. And you know, there haven't been too many times where we could say that about him, so I think it would be nice to give him that tonight for sure. But the whole team was fantastic tonight, and it was good to see. So I really hope they can do that. Thanks for joining, guys. Thanks for all your comments. Wonderful to see. Thank you, boys, for joining me as well. Great to see you all. And we'll see you next.